It's with a heavy heart. The city of Pikeville has announced that Officer Scotty Hamilton was shot and killed tonight in the line of duty.
Just something you just can't wrap yourself around.
This family needs your support. Our police family needs your support. And we're thankful for the great turnout that we have tonight.
Good afternoon, everyone. Live from downtown Pikeville, I'm Steve Hensley along with Neil Middleton. The weather is beautiful, but the mood is very somber here as the funeral for Pikeville Officer Scotty Hamilton is about to begin at the East Kentucky Expo Center just down the road from where we are. We are at the Pikeville Police Department where Scotty's cruiser has been on display for a few days now, and folks still, as we're talking, coming by and putting flowers or what have you on the cruiser. A very somber scene. You know, I've seen it on TV, Neil, all this week, but it's different when you see it in person.
It really is different when you see it in person. The mood across this town is just one of sorrow, and you said it best, solemn. We have seen police cruisers and motorcycles and different agencies from numerous states coming in, from Tennessee, from West Virginia, from Virginia, all coming here to pay their respects to Officer Scotty Hamilton.
And it's sure to be a very emotional service, and we will go to that service as soon as it gets underway at the Expo Center. But Neil, there's going to be a lot of speakers, a lot of good music, very fitting music for this occasion.
Well, that's right. We've been looking at the program. There are a number of speakers, city officials, county officials, a lot of fellow officers that are going to pay tribute to Officer Scotty Hamilton. But you were talking about the music and some of the hymns, and I tell you, it's going to be a beautiful service, but it's going to be a tough service for all of those who knew and loved Scotty Hamilton.
And we've had people just come up to us in the last few moments saying, you know, I knew him. It seems like everybody in the last few months, if they didn't know him well, they knew who he was. He'd been with the Pikeville Police Department for about 12 years, so he was very well known in this community.
Well, everyone that I have talked to, and you've seen it in all of the stories that we've done and all the other news outlets, they talk about him, they talk about his humility. You know, one of the training officers talked about that was the first thing that he noticed when he started training Officer Hamilton was his humility, and that he really did take to serve and protect, that meant something to him. People have talked about just what a caring and dedicated man he was, not only to his profession, but to his family.
Right, and that's really one of the worst parts of this story is that he was only 35 years old. He had a wife and a very young daughter. I don't think she's even a year old yet. It's just tough.
It is. It's heartbreaking. And we were looking at some pictures of Officer Hamilton, and in his high school yearbook it said, "Live each day to the fullest. Take each day, one day at a time." And everyone that I've talked to have said that's how he lived his life.
Yeah, and I didn't know Officer Hamilton personally, but I feel like I do after this week. And I've heard not one negative word said about him.
Not one negative word. I only met him a couple of times. I didn't really know him, but every time that I had met him, he was professional. He was nice. He was friendly, and he's just. This is such a tragedy. We talk about that word and that it's overused, but it really is a tragedy.
It is. And coming up after the service at the Expo Center, there will be a procession through the streets of downtown Pikeville. The cemetery where he will be buried is actually, we can see it from where we're standing, and folks are already up there gathering, preparing for that part of the service. But what a sad day this is for downtown Pikeville. You know, this has to go down as one of the worst weeks in Pikeville's history.
Well, it really does, and really for all of Eastern Kentucky, because as they've said here, it's not just Pikeville or Pike County mourning. It's all of Eastern Kentucky. It's all of Kentucky. And really and truly, when you think about law enforcement, it's the entire law enforcement community across this country that's mourning Officer Hamilton's death.
Yeah, and this is thank God this doesn't happen often in eastern Kentucky. I mean, we've had a few instances of someone being shot in the line of duty. Obviously, we think of Sam Catron in Pulaski County, but that was several years ago. And this is honestly the first time I've covered a funeral service for a police officer that was shot in the line of duty. And I've been at YMT 19 years, and you've been there longer than that.
Well, you know, and I haven't seen this very often either. I've been covering this more than 30 years. I got here earlier today, and I was going into the expo as they were setting up, and just the honor guard was there, and they were changing. It was very respectful, and just the mood in there again was just, it was one of sorrow, but also one of respect. And when the honor guard would start changing, everyone would stop what they were doing, and citizens, civilians, officers would all pretty much stand at attention and just pay their respects as that honor guard walked by.
And as you mentioned, Neil, we've seen cruisers. In fact, I'm looking at Richmond, some Richmond cruisers right across the street. They had a similar tragedy in their department not long ago. And it's just, I've seen them from western, all parts of the state and along with the surrounding states.
Well,
here.
as you drive into Pikeville, they had already marked off places for cruisers and for officers to park. And streets all up and down the main streets here are lined on both sides with police officer cruisers from various departments, again, across the state. And we don't know how far away they've come, but typically with something like this, they come from pretty far away.
And driving in, I also noticed a lot of blue ribbons on businesses. We can see down here on the walkway going from the parking garage to the college, it has a Scotty Hamilton's badge, the thin blue line. There are just signs all over this town of tributes to this fallen officer. And this has hurt this community.
It really has. And you know, they're having the funeral today, and they're going to celebrate his life and his legacy. But I've often heard people talk about that it's the days that follow sometimes that are the very hardest. It's that initial impact and that initial shock. But when the funeral's over today, this community, this town is not going to stop mourning. These officers who will go to work each day, when they get in that cruiser, when they put that badge on in the morning, they never know if they're going to come home. And the mourning doesn't stop today.
Yeah. And we should mention we are carrying the service live with the family's blessing today here on Heroes and Icons. Kind of appropriate that it's on Heroes and Icons this afternoon, and we're streaming it on WYMT.com and Facebook. Again, with the family's blessing, and we're not sure exactly how long the service will last. I think they're hoping to keep it about an hour, but there are a lot of speakers today. So
there are a lot of speakers and a lot of music, and you know, they want each person that's going to speak. They're going to talk about how they remember Officer Hamilton. That's not going to be easy to do. So while they want to keep it maybe to an hour, hour and a half, they're also going to let these people have the time that they need to share their memories about Officer Hamilton.
And we understand afterwards they're going to let folks file out of the Expo Center, line the streets for kind of a final salute to Officer Hamilton as he is driven up to the cemetery, which is right behind us. The cemetery actually overlooks the Pikeville Police Department.
And we're going to probably break away at that point, and then as the procession comes by the police department here, we're going to be able to show you that again as well.
Right. Again, before, we've been down here a couple of hours and talked to a lot of people, and just a very solemn mood. People have come by to take pictures and just, this is part of history, but they, it's been very respectful, and a lot of people didn't even know this officer, and they're coming down here to pay their respects.
Well, you saw hundreds lined up. I'm not sure what the final numbers were, but they had visitation on Friday and Saturday. Mm-hmm. They were here for 9 hours yesterday, and people were continually coming through to pay their respects. And again, people drove from everywhere just to come and say their final goodbyes and to show their respect for Officer Hamilton.
The weather today is much different than it was Wednesday, right after the shooting, when they brought Officer Hamilton's body back initially and had a procession along this same stretch of roadway. It was very cold, snowy, cloudy day. Today it is a gorgeous day downtown Pikeville. The temperature is about perfect, clear blue skies. You couldn't ask for a nicer day for such a solemn occasion.
Well, that's true, and I guess knowing how he lived his life, the weather is fitting for a day like today. As sad as this day is, the weather speaks about the way that he lived his life and where he is now.
You know, I'm not positive on this, but we did a story the other day with Judy Patton, who lost her father in 1950, I believe. I'm not sure if that was the last time an officer in Pike County was shot in the line of duty. We've had some fatal accidents involving officers, but listening to Judy Patton, that's something that stays with you, that never leaves you. I mean, it's going to be with this family and this community forever.
Well, I watched that story the other night, and I've heard Judy Patton talk about that night, and her words are haunting. They never leave you, and you think about the images that she saw and that she felt, and you think about Officer Hamilton's wife and what she had to go through in those moments that she first heard about this. It's heartbreaking. And then again, as you mentioned, they have their daughter is only, I think, 9 months old. There just are no words.
Gonna grow up without a father, without a father going to her graduations, walking her down the aisle. It's just so heartbreaking. And but she will have the memories that people will tell her about her father, and so it's just going to be very, very difficult. And I'm sure they feel the community's love, and that's probably helped them get through this.
And that's going to be the most important thing in the days to come is that community support and that love from family and friends. That's going to be what will carry them through this.
Just looking at some of the things people have left, I see a badge from the police department in Louisville, Harrodsburg. There's a softball glove with a softball in it. I know he played baseball and maybe football too in high school. Yeah. So is an athlete at Shelby Valley High School in Pike County. Of course, a lot of people have left flowers. I know kids have come by and left some of these bags down near the police department. So just very touching to see. And again, I've been seeing this all week on television, but seeing it in person is just extra meaningful.
It is very difficult. And while we've been here for several hours. And as you mentioned, people continue to come by, and they're going to continue to come by to pay their respects. But this memorial in tribute to Officer Scotty Hamilton.
And some of the cruisers I can see, Dandridge, which I believe is Tennessee, Houstonville, Franklin County, Frankfort, and again, as I mentioned earlier, right down here we have several cruisers from the Richmond Police Department, which experienced their own tragedy with an officer shot in the line of duty not too long ago.
And if you've ever been to Pikeville, you know the main road that's coming in there by U-Pike and the parking garage, Hambly Boulevard. That highway all the way down, starting into town and going all the way out this way, both sides of the street are lined with cruisers.
And again, there will be a procession after the service at the Expo Center. I can see far down near the parking garage, they've got a flag flying, and then right behind us, they did have a flag flying right behind the police department up on two huge poles there hanging down. But this community has gone all out today to make sure Officer Hamilton gets the tribute he deserves.
That's right, Steve. And again, if you're just joining us, we are going to be carrying the funeral live here on Heroes and Icons, WYMT.com, and on our Facebook page. We're expecting that to begin momentarily. They have a lot of speakers, a lot of special music. It's probably going to last about an hour and a half as they pay tribute. We're going to carry that in its entirety here and then we will also probably break away for a few minutes while they let everybody come out and line the streets for the processional, and then we'll pick coverage back up as the procession comes by the police department here.
Yeah, I suspect it's probably going to take from beginning to end, from the service to the burial up on the hill behind us, maybe three hours or so. It's going to be much of the afternoon. But this service was supposed to start at 1 o'clock. Understandably, they're probably having a lot of people still coming through the doors, trying to get everyone seated and squared away before they begin the service inside the East Kentucky Expo Center. We've done several things in the Expo Center through the years, including SOAR. There's been all kinds of events, concerts. I'm not sure there's been a funeral like this, though.
Not to my memory. I don't believe there ever has been. And again, it's just it is such a solemn day here in Pikeville, and everywhere you look, there are people already lining the streets. There were hundreds already, and I'm probably now 1,000 or more in the expo waiting to pay their tributes to Scotty Hamilton.
And again, as soon as they get started, we'll take you there. And after it's over, we hope to carry part of the processional live and the burial ceremony live as well here on Heroes and Icons, WIMT.com, and our Facebook page. We also have several reporters working on tributes for our 6 o'clock news tonight, which I'll be anchoring from here in downtown Pikeville for that. And we'll devote much of our newscast tonight to Officer Hamilton and the services today, and that will also only be on Heroes and Icons. Of course, we have NCAA basketball continuing on CBS, but we'll be back on at 6 o'clock on Heroes and Icons and WIMT.com. Again, we are continuing to wait for the service to begin. We will go to that as soon as it gets underway.
You know, Steve, we should also mention, a lot of people have said, how can we help? What can we do? And in the days ahead, that's going to be important. And obviously, the family in this community, first and foremost, needs your prayers. They need all of our prayers. Mm-hmm. Also, a scholarship fund has been set up for their little girl through Community Trust Bank. We're going to have that information. We have it on WIMT.com. We'll also have it in the newscast tonight. We'll be providing that. So those are some of the ways that you can help.
And we also have a story up on WIMT.com in case you may be watching our coverage and want to come down here for the procession. We have the list of streets that the procession will be going down in a story on WIMT.com if you want to look at that. We're still waiting for the service to get underway, but let's go ahead and just listen in and look at from inside the Expo Center as we await the first speaker.
You may be seated.
Red and blue lights cover 75 like a train. Miles of cars full of people with nothing to say. The sun's out, you think that it's just another November day. That I sleep in now, and badge number 457 is all over town, and people keep asking if there's anything they can do, but no one can give me back you. They call me on a cell phone telling me there's an officer down. They called me and told me it's my officer down. And I talked to you, I begged you, but you didn't come back around. Oh, I kissed you goodbye 1,000 times, but never like I'm doing right now. Oh, with 21 shots going up.
Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and I am life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, yet shall they live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And I hold the keys of hell and death. Because I live, you shall live also. But according to his promise, we are looking for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. But our commonwealth is in heaven, and from it we await a Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will change our lowly body to be like his glorious body, by the power which enables him even to subject all things to himself. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. By his great mercy we have been born anew to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and to an inheritance which is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you. Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of the Father's hand." Friends, we have gathered here to praise God and to witness to our faith as we celebrate the life of Officer Scotty Hamilton. We come together this afternoon in grief, acknowledging our human loss. And we come together asking that God would give us grace, that in pain we might find comfort, in sorrow, hope, and in death, resurrection.
Hear this from God's word. Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and who made earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is our keeper. The Lord is our shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and coming in from this time forth and forevermore. Let us pray. O God, who give us birth, you are ever more ready to hear than we ever are to pray. You know our needs even before we ask, and our ignorance in even asking. Give to us now your grace, that as we shrink before this mystery of death, that we may see the light of eternity. Speak to us once more your solemn message of life and of death. Help us to live as those who are prepared to die. And when our days here are accomplished, enable us to die as those who go forth to live, so that by living or dying, our life may be in you. God of us all, we thank you for Christ's grace, through which we pray to you in this darkest of hour. A life we love has been torn from us, but through your grace that can do far more than we can think or ever imagine, fulfill in Scotty your purpose that reaches beyond time and beyond death. Everlasting God, you turned the disciples' despair into triumph, their sorrow into joy. So give us faith to believe that every good that seems to be overcome by evil, every love that seems to be buried in death, shall rise again to eternal life. It is through Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with you and forevermore. Amen.
When you look at the patch on the uniforms that our officers wear, the words integrity, service, and courage are stitched on them. That exemplifies Scotty because he truly lived those words and wore them with pride every day. When you think of the words like father, husband, son, brother, and friend, you can think of Scotty and who he was when he was not in uniform, a job that I'm sure he took a lot of pride in. When you think of the words like kindness, loyal, respectful, loving, caring, professional, you can attach Scotty's picture to them. He fit these descriptions both in and out of the uniform. Scotty was a beloved member of our police force and in our community. He has been a member of our department for 12 years, joining in 2006. Since his passing, I've heard nothing but stories of people's memories of Scotty. What a wonderful person. What a tremendous police officer. What a great father, husband. And each story and every comment that I've heard has helped me personally, our police force, our city, our community, to help us heal our broken hearts. The outpouring of support and love, compassion, and encouragement we have received from the community has comforted us immensely and helped us get through this difficult time. Sadly, it's during these events that you can tell how unified a community really is. Throughout this tragedy, our community is united to honor Scotty, to provide his family with support and comfort in our police department. I'm not surprised in the least that we've unified in this manner, because at the end of every day, we are Pikeville strong. But I'm filled with more gratitude than I'll ever be able to express for the donations and the support we've received. To Wayne and Pat, you raised an outstanding young man. To Chelsea, Brinley, thank you for sharing Scotty with us. I want you to know that we love you and we're here to support you in anything you may need. Pikeville Police Officer Scotty Hamilton was a remarkable officer and even a better man. He will certainly be missed in our community. As we leave here today, I'm going to ask that when you think of the word sacrifice and community, that you think of Scotty Hamilton, because he truly made the sacrifices to protect our community every day. Thank you, and God bless the Hamilton family and the city of Pikeville.
First of all, I want to say how humbled and how honored I am to be able to participate in today's event. I thought I would start in 2004. I had the great honor of coming to work for the city as the city manager of Pikeville. At that time, we had issues within our department. Daily, I was getting calls about concerns with law enforcement, though we had great people. So I met with Jimmy Dean Atkins, the chief then, at Jerry's restaurant, and we talked about what we could do to make the department better. We knew we had great men, but we just needed to do something to heighten the standard. We did that. It started with interviewing, then testing, and then the drug tests, the background check, the psychological, the polygraph, the POPS test, and then the executive interview, and then brought before the commission for final sign-off. Then it was months with the FTO program before an officer was ready to serve his community. In 2004, we brought on Mike Riddle, Bruce Collins, Dave Atkins. In 2005 was Tony Kahn. On June the 19th, 2006, we brought on a group of 4. A young 23-and-a-half-year-old sat across from me. He had such a smile. His eyes glistened. We knew we had the right person. There was no doubt. Jimmy Dean and I sat and talked about the candidates that we had and how we wanted to move forward, and how that a Scotty Hamilton would make a difference in the department and in the community. He proved us right in so many ways. The call stopped. The department grew by the many fine men that we have sitting out here today. I thought I would share a story. My first memory with Scotty was on during Hillbilly days of 2007. I had the opportunity of riding in the parade. Scotty, out of school. He was stationed on the boulevard as the parade went through. I was in a golf cart, myself and Johnny Cole, who us all here today. And I looked to my right and I saw that same smile, glistening eyes that I saw back during the interview. And with my bullhorn and with everybody around, I yelled out, "Look, there's Hottie Scotty." He blushed. He smiled. And he warmed my heart. Our mission in 2004 was to create a better department and a community, one that we could be proud of. With Scotty and his brothers in blue, we accomplished that. The department, since then, with the fine men that sits here today in honor of Scotty, has received many awards. The department was accredited, and there was many commitments and sacrifices that was made by officers like Scotty Hamilton. 24/7, these guys work. They serve our community. I had the great pleasure of watching a 23-and-a-half-year-old young man grow into a 35-year-old amazing leader who was dedicated to his job, his family, and his community. As the mayor said, to look no further if you want to describe Scotty by looking at his patch. He had integrity like no other. He was honest, dedicated, and sincere. He never questioned his courage. He never backed down from a challenge. And he always was the first to step up. In service, he walked the beat. He was in our neighborhoods. He was in our school systems. And now he's made the ultimate sacrifice for our safety. That's how Scotty was. 2 weeks ago, I ran into Scotty on the streets. He greeted me with a smile and a hug. He invited me to come to the department and thanked me. I shook his hand, and it's a hug that I'll never forget. John 15:13 says, God has no greater love than a man who laid down his life for his friends. Scotty is my friend. Scotty is your friend. Scotty is this community's friend. To many people here today, he's also a dear brother, and now today he is everyone's hero. Searching like so many I'm sure has through his Facebook, I found a photo screenshot that Scotty had, and it said the following: and maybe remind the few, if ill of us they speak, that we are all that stands between the monsters and the weak. In this very venue last year, we stood with Scotty and his brothers, and many of you that are here today. to shut down the white supremacists and the Antifa who had came into this community, to stand strong, to show people what this community was made of. It's people like Scotty that made a difference. Those of us that Scotty protected daily, we are the weak. We are the meek. We sleep safe and sound, knowing but not really appreciating until now the sacrifice of those who are awake and who guard our safety, our families, and our very way of life. I ask you to please continue to pray for strength for his true love, Chelsea, for his dear baby girl, along with his parents, grandparents, brothers, and family. And thank them for allowing us to share Scotty for the past 11 years, 8 months, and 22 days. Let us never forget the sacrifice. Thank you, Scotty.
First, I want to extend my deepest sympathies to Chelsea, Brindley, Jeff, and also all of Scotty's and Chelsea's families that are here today. To the Pikeville Police Department, my heart breaks along with yours as we mourn together over the loss of our brother, our colleague, but most importantly, our friend. To this community, we lost a dedicated, positive role model that worked tirelessly every day to ensure that you were safe. To the hundreds of officers that are represented here today to show your support, to our family, there are no words to describe my gratitude for your love and support during this time of despair. I want to thank everyone in this community, surrounding communities and states, along with everyone else who has taken the time to show their love and support to this family and to this law enforcement community. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. In 2006, I was blessed with the honor and opportunity to conduct a background investigation on Scotty during his process in becoming a Pikeville police officer. The most memorable part of that investigation was when I walked into the bank where Scotty was a teller to interview his employer and his co-workers. The smile that came across his face when I walked in that door is one that I will never forget. I knew right then he was one of those people that we were looking for. After Scotty joined our family, working days together quickly became months and years, doing what we all love daily. As quickly as all this time went by, I realized one very important characteristic and trait about Scotty that I wished everyone had, was that smile never left his face. He was a happy person, and that happiness was contagious when you were near him. I don't think he ever realized how often he brightened the mood in everyone's day with his laughter and smile. I want this family to know that Scotty touched many lives and made a huge impact over the last 12 years on what this community has evolved into today. If that same love and passion he put into his police work was the same for what he put into his personal life, then I have no doubt he was the best husband, father, brother, and son that anyone could ever ask for. Chelsea, I want to thank you for allowing me to spend countless hours with Scotty over the last year, taking off-road adventures in which many times he got us lost. But it's those times and memories that I will be able to hold on and cherish forever. One thing to remember, when Scotty was around, there was laughter, mainly because his jokes always backfired on him. But now, I truly believe he didn't care as long as his brothers were smiling and happy. I said all this for you to know that Scotty touched many lives, and I was one of them. He and your family will always be loved, as you both will be a part of our family forever. I am so grateful and honored to have known Scotty and to have worked with him. Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Scotty will never be forgotten.
You know, as I come up here today and Chelsea asked me to speak, I keep thinking positive and to stay together. There was no finer man than Scotty. He loved his job. He loved his wife, and he loved his life. He was positive, and me being an older officer, he always kept me going. He kept saying, he would just look at me and say, suck it up, let's get to work. That's what he always said to me. I can remember the first time he started narcotics with me. Scotty come in the office, and it was about a week and a half after he got started. And he was so raring to go. And most of the people in his community knows that patrol work is different from narcotic work. And sometimes you have lulls in the action or a slower paced. Scotty wasn't ready for that. He called me, he said, man, I need to speak to you. And I said, what's up? He said, well, just meet me behind the station. And I'll never forget this. He came, he said, man, I feel like I'm useless. He said, I feel like I'm doing nothing for the community. See, Scotty always put the community first, and he wanted to give 100% and earn his salary. Now, a lot of you all out there that's sitting today that are wearing badges understand that. Scotty was positive, he was fearless, and he never stopped moving forward. And as I look at Chelsea and Lauren and Kevin and Susan, the family, Pat, Wayne, I want y'all to know he's an amazing man. And this world is so much better that he was a part of it. And this world will never forget him. And I want to read a verse in closing from Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. It basically states that, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Chelsea, I want to add one line to that as closing. The Lord your God is always with you. But you got me on your back too. I want you to know that.
weak and wounded sinner, lost and left to die. Oh, raise your head, for love is passing by. And come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus and live. Now your burden's lifted and carried far away, and precious blood has washed away the stain. Sing to Jesus, sing to Jesus, sing to Jesus and live. And like a newborn baby, don't be afraid to crawl. And remember, when you walk, sometimes you fall. So fall on Jesus, fall on Jesus, fall on Jesus and live. Sometimes the way is lonely, sleep and filled with pain. So if your sky is dark and pours the rain, then cry to Jesus, cry to Jesus, cry to Jesus and live. Oh, and when the love spills over and music fills the air, and when you can't contain your joy inside, dance for Jesus, dance for Jesus, dance for Jesus and live. And with your final heartbeat, kiss the world goodbye. Then go in peace and laugh on glory's side. Fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus and live. Fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus and live.
This is tough, as we see. I want to thank all the brothers and sisters that came together to assemble to remember Scotty. I want to express my condolences to Chelsea, Brindley, and the Hamiltons, Pat and Wayne, and Jeff, my brother, and the officers of the Pikeville City Police Department, and the whole family. See, his passing will not be, it's not going to be forgotten. We're going to miss him. We understand that. When I was asked if I would speak, I thought it would be an honor for myself to come forth and tell you a little bit about Scotty as well, and how I view Scotty. I was constantly trying to recruit him for the Kentucky State Police. I mean, I thought he was an individual that there's just something about him, just as the commissioner just stated, there's just something about him, his light, the way he smiled, the way he approached himself was definitely I believe, an honor for the Pikeville Police Department. He wore his uniform proudly, and he is definitely an example for all to meet. You know, it's not the first time I probably met Scotty, but when him and Chelsea themselves began dating, the first date they showed up to the house, and my wife, Angie, she goes to Scotty and she tells, hey, Chelsea, she's a good catch. And buddy, after that, they started dating and they ended up getting married. So we see that how the family itself we become a part of each other. And the Scotty that I knew, he bled blue. He loved his job, and he definitely loved the people he worked with. See, I didn't get to see Scotty much here and there, traveling back and forth to different locations. He was on the State Police Task Force. Didn't really get to see him much. But during the family gatherings and seemed like the Christmases and all the other events that we did have, one of the good things we did say or see, he always had a smile on his face. He always had something positive to say about everything. Never seen Scotty really say anything negative. And that's such a rare trait, as we know. And I'm pretty sure the colleagues as well probably knew that as well about Scotty. See, I want people to know who Scotty Hamilton is, you know, in the law enforcement community. His unit number was 111. He is an inspiring light that is on a hill that can be seen from far off, that cannot be hid. Scotty Hamilton is the light that reflects the Pikeville Police Department and his community that he served. Officer Scotty Hamilton, Unit 111, is the Pikeville City Police Department, and it reflects their mission statement. And their mission statement itself for the Pikeville City Police Department, if you read it, is to safeguard the lives and property of the people that we serve. Many times where the state police is in the boundaries of the county, it's not uncommon to have the city police or the local jurisdictions to assist with the state police. And it's an honor to have them working with us as well. So that's one of the very things that Scotty did, and I foresee him doing such a great job at. He wanted to help his brothers, and I think if he was available at any given time, he would always assist. When you look at Pikeville City Police Department's patch, you're going to find certain words. It's kind of unusual: spirit, integrity, and commitment. You know, when we think of spirit, an individual has to have these qualities in order to put on his uniform and go out and face the uncertainties and the unknowns. If you are married into a law enforcement family, it is very difficult for that officer to come home and talk to his family members about the things that officer deals with on a daily basis. The family member would not allow the officer themselves to go out that front door, because we just don't know. So it's good in some instances not to talk about our jobs. But we have our brothers to go to. We have our brothers to go to, and when we're having a bad day, we can express our feelings and what's going on. Even personal things, we can talk to them about those things as well. See, we look at this word pride within itself. It's something someone has to have to go that extra mile. It's just as simple as shining your shoes and putting on edge dressing on your shoes, making sure your uniform looks sharp, a fresh haircut to be able to go out and serve the community. And I believe Scotty Hamilton, buddy, as you see in the portraits in front of him, he's sharp. In the military, they would say he's squared away. Out here in law enforcement, we say he's 10-8. So we see that when you got a nice clean car and patrol car and shiny shoes, fresh haircut, You're always on time. It seems like it kind of makes your job a little bit easier. It really does. So as we see, Scotty took pride in his appearance. He had integrity, he had pride, and he definitely had commitment. Scotty was committed to do something about the drugs in our community itself so Brindley could grow up in a safe environment. See, you might have seen Scotty. He might have pulled you over. He might have even issued a citation. But I guarantee you, he was probably in a positive light when he left. He possibly even worked one of your accidents that you've seen along 23 or in the city of Pikeville. He might even came into disturbance, and I'm pretty sure he handled himself in a professional manner. See, people like Scotty wouldn't hesitate to work extra or work long hours. And it's always the end mission was to put the bad guy away. See, Scotty was an individual that was dedicated and would go this extra mile. And I believe he didn't ever cut any shortcuts. See, if we believe all these things, you've probably seen him passing in as well as in the city, walking on the street, or going back and forth to the jail, always on a mission. Probably seen him going in and out of the hospital after possibly taking somebody for a blood test or whatever, trying to keep the highways safe. See, I believe Scotty himself set an example for us to be like. See, I would say myself and my wife Angie, we would definitely miss him. But we would have to ask, who is Scotty Hamilton? For me, he is my brother. To you, hopefully he's the same. I say, who is Scotty Hamilton? He is going to be a part of each and every one here today. He might be gone, but his spirit will continue to live in all of us. He says, and I address this to the state police cadets, don't quit. When things get tough, dig in. Because someone will need to pick up the torch and continue to serve the community just the same way that Scotty Hamilton did. In closing itself, I'd like to state, God bless, and my prayers go out to the families and the department. Thank you.
Y'all have to bear with me. I told myself if it got hard, I'd just imagine a bunch of Scotties out there grinning at me. Chelsea and family, thank you for extending the opportunity to attempt to pay respect to someone that we all hold so closely to our hearts. I sat in my cruiser near 24 hours after I heard the radio call that none of us ever want to hear. One time that I wish that I hadn't been listening. I searched my soul as I do here today to express the profound and overwhelming emotions that so many of us that knew Scotty well are feeling. I've yet to find those words. We can't make sense of what has happened, but we can find comfort in knowing that Scotty isn't really gone, but as usual, is just a few steps ahead of us, and we'll see him again in a little while. My dad always tells me, son, keep your head on a swivel. And I've been complacent. We get in the mindset that these sorts of things don't happen around here, not in these mountains. Scotty always had his head on a swivel. He could smell crime. He was a brilliant cop. It wasn't able to serve him on Tuesday. As a coward crept in the shadows to commit the most heinous of crimes, to rob Chelsea of a husband, Brindley of a father. But Scotty knew the possibility was there. We all do, every day when we put this uniform on. Hemingway said every man's life ends the same way, but it's only the details of how he lived and how he died that distinguished one man from another. That is what sets Scotty apart from the rest of us. How he lived and how he left us. See, what makes Scotty so extra special is that he would have walked right back into that situation again, knowing the outcome, to save one of his brothers, to save somebody that he had never even met. I remember a time right after I got sworn in, I got in a foot chase on US 460 in Shelby. When the suspect took off, there were a bunch of us there, but Scotty was right there, watching over me. He knew I was green. He knew I needed guidance, and he never left my side, having no clue what I had gotten him into. Scotty was a brilliant cop. He was all the qualities you want in a police officer. He was diligent, passionate, careful, and meaningful in every move he made in and out of uniform. I met him when I was 16 years old. He'd been with the police department just over a year. I knew at the ripe old age of 5 that being a cop was the only career path for me. Sheriff Fuzzy Kazee gave me a chance. Scotty gave me the goal of what to become as a police officer. I cut my teeth at Pikeville PD, near literally. Those guys gave me my first taste of police work. I spent my weekends in high school in the passenger seat of a Pikeville PD cruiser. When I first got my badge, to say that I was rough around the edges would be a sore understatement. Scotty, Russell, Chris, Philip, Michael, Tony, the whole clan never treated me as less of a person or less of a cop. They continuously provided me the guidance that I needed so badly. I finally went to the academy. Fast forward a couple years, I had a car stopped on Route 80 about the top of Martin Hill. I noticed a newer Ford Explorer about 50 yards behind me. I paid it special close attention as I finished my traffic stop. And I walked back to my car, and it worked ever closer to find Scotty at the wheel. He was on his way back home from Knott County on a case, and he saw that I was alone in the middle of Floyd County, and he stopped to make sure that I would make it home safe to my wife. He asked how I was doing. Chelsea was pregnant with Brinley and due at any time. You could see the excitement and anticipation in his eyes as he talked of becoming a father. Finally getting the family that he had always wanted. We shook hands. He told me that he was proud of me, and that if I ever needed anything, he was only a phone call away. He always thought of others first. Things like that are what define Scotty Hamilton. A coward took our friend, Brinley's father, Chelsea's husband, a mother's baby boy, and a father's son. That was what every father hoped their son turned out like. I warn him, justice will be done, and it will be done correctly, diligently, and swiftly, in a true honor to the police work that Scotty Hamilton did. The world now has seen what we are capable of, that we band together in these mountains like nowhere else in the world. Chelsea and family, my brothers in Pikeville, I pray for your comfort constantly. I love you all. I love you, Scotty. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for giving me the best image out there to model myself after, but I will never come close to being able to fill your shoes. I know as they washed your car the other night, you were looking down at him laughing. That's right, boys, clean her up good. The kick I know you got out of that. With the laugh and the grin that was so unique to you. Patrolman Scotty Hamilton, Pikeville Police Department, Unit 111, while you were 10-10 for the final time, You will always hold a special place in our hearts. All who wear a badge will protect your wife and your daughter and make sure that she knows that she has the best daddy out there. We will carry your torch on and spread your happiness for years to come. You live on inside of us all. We will carry the burden from here. You have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Until we meet again one day, I love you, my dear friend.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out today. I just want to quickly thank the community for all the overwhelming support they've shown us, and for everyone who's traveled here to show the support for Scotty. The overwhelming show of support has helped our family out so much. Scotty was loved by so many people. He meant so much to so many people. He was a father. He was a husband. He was a son. He was an officer. But I was truly lucky to be able to call him my brother. Today is really hard for me because I've lost one of my closest friends, and our family has lost someone that can never be replaced. When I think of Scotty, I remember a man that just loved to laugh. He had a huge smile for you all the time. I've thought about Scotty so much these past few days, and in the many years that I've known him, I can honestly say that I don't remember him ever being in a bad mood. And just not having that huge smile on his face either. He had such a great sense of humor, and he just loved to make everyone laugh. He meant so much to this community, so much that I'll never be able to express. Through the years of service, mentoring kids, and all the endless stories of the people Scotty have helped, he's created a void by a sudden death that no one will ever be able to be filled. I was lucky enough to be a part of Scotty's family, and I saw how much he loved his wife, Chelsea. They were truly made for one another, and they were the definition of soulmates. But Scotty's greatest love and the true passion of his life was his daughter, Brinley. He was the most devoted and loving father that I know. These past few days, you find yourself thinking about him so much. But my most beloved memory of Scotty was the night that Brinley was born. In the hours leading to her birth, I'd never seen him so nervous, excited, and scared. And when it was finally time, I remember being in the waiting room, and Scotty came through the doors to tell us what happened, where he tried. He had the biggest smile on his face, and he was trying to tell us, but nothing would come out. He was just, he just so overwhelmed with joy he couldn't talk. So during this rough time, when I think about everything, my mind always seems to drift back to that day and see him coming through that door wearing that big goofy medical gown and that huge smile on his face, trying to just tell us everything, but nothing coming out. When I remember what a loving and fun person Scotty was, I can't help but smile. And as much as I'm hurting today, I truly know he's in a better place. I love you, Scotty. I'll miss you forever. Thank you all for coming to celebrate his life.
First off, I want to thank everyone for being here to support this family and this department. And I hope when I leave here today, I can leave you with what Scotty was and what he always will be. I stand here today with a heavy heart to tell you about a great young man, Scotty Hamilton. He was a wonderful father, a great husband, a loyal son, a protective brother, and a dedicated police officer. From the first day I met Scotty, I knew he was bound for greatness. He was always smiling, ready to help in any way that he could, never shying away from putting in a hard day's work to get the job done. Scotty's hard work and dedication to the people of Pikeville was one of the reasons I grew to love him. He always treated others with respect, kindness, and everyone knew that. Scotty's smile and laughter always pulled us together. Today we all come together to celebrate the life that Scotty worked so hard to accomplish. Scotty loved being a police officer, and it showed in every action. As a young parent, a lot like me, Brindley was the most important thing in Scotty's life. I'd always known Scotty was going to be a wonderful father. I'd watched him with my own son many years before that. Scotty would spend hours with my son because of their love for baseball was the same. During those hours spent with my son, he would throw 50 pitches to him, and if he only hit one, Scotty would brag on just that one and never lose that smile or words of encouragement. Scotty was the type of person that could talk to anyone no matter what the situation was. And everyone would walk away, which has been said so many times this evening. And they would walk away not only with a smile, but a happier person. That was just the effect Scotty had on everyone. A lot of times in this profession, people complain about how we handle things or situations. I want to share this with you. I received a call from a lady one time throughout our career. It was in reference to an out of control child. She expressed to me that she wasn't calling me to complain, but instead she wanted to compliment Scotty for taking the time out of his day to talk to that child, even to the point of sitting on the bed with him playing Xbox. That lady told me later that her son had sat and talked to her about how cool and nice Scotty was. Scotty's impact on that child, which the child will never forget, because we've never received another complaint on that child, ever. So his smile, his laughter impacts everyone. As Scotty began his career at the Pikeville Police Department, I knew quickly he was very competitive, compassionate, and hard worker and very dedicated. I can reflect on so many stories of his 12 years of service, and they all end up the same way: happiness. Even though I was his supervisor from the day he started here, I grew and became a better man, a better police officer, just from watching Scotty. As I draw to a close, I want to thank everyone for all their kind words, the gifts, the showing of appreciation for his family, and the job that Scotty provided to this community. I am humbled by this community, its businesses, and by the citizens of this whole county. This community has lost a great public servant. It isn't about how Scotty leaves us that made him a hero, but instead it's how he lived. Chelsea, Brindley, you're all's family. No one deserves to lose a husband or a father. Wayne, Pat, Jeff, no one deserves to lose a son or a brother. And to all my fellow officers that sat on this side, you didn't deserve to lose a brother or a friend. No one in this crowd deserved to lose Scotty. Thank you all so much.
These are the words that we hear in Matthew chapter 5. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven."
Scotty and Chelsea have a beautiful love story. I was blessed to be able to sing at their wedding years ago. And as difficult as this is, I am so humbled to be able to honor him today. It's such an amazing family. Jesus, bring a peace and a comfort like only you can.
Sees that bruised and broken for my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you. And it is well with me. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you. And it is well. It is well. So let go. is well with me.
That song says, through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. What kind of faith must one have to be able to sing, through it all, it is well? That song's a modern version of the old familiar hymn, It Is Well With My Soul. Perhaps you know the lines, when peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. And then the refrain, it is well with my soul, it is well with my soul. The writer of that hymn, Horatio Spafford, wrote those lines in 1873. It is well with my soul came out of his own personal tragedy. His wife and 4 daughters had been sailing from the U.S. across the Atlantic Ocean toward Europe when their ship collided with another ship and sank, and all 4 of their daughters died. His wife, Anna, survived, sending a telegram back home to the U.S. which simply read, saved alone. Horatio Spafford traveled to be reunited with his wife, and as the ship on which he was traveling passed near the place where his daughters had lost their lives, he penned these words, when peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. What kind of faith must we have to be able to sing, it is well with my soul? What kind of faith must one have to be able to sing, it is well, even as the sorrows like sea billows roll? The events of this week have shaken us. They have stunned us. Sadly, we have grown accustomed to reading about tragedies in other communities. We have become familiar with hearing about violence and suffering in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, but this week, tragedy became personal. It hit home. And the names in the headlines were the names of our loved ones. It was our community. They were our neighbors. They were our friends. They are our family. And we were the ones lifting up candles in the darkness, trying to offer hope. We were the ones trying to make sense of what's happened. And our faith has been tested. It has been shaken. But I believe we can still sing together, it is well with my soul. I believe this family and this community can still say, it is well with my soul. Would you say that? It is well with my soul. Following the Boston Marathon bombing on April 15, 2013, an interview from years ago with Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' neighborhood began circulating on social media. And in that interview, Mr. Rogers talks about how when he was little and something bad happened in the world, he would go and ask his mom about the catastrophe, the tragedy, the disaster that he was reading about, that he was hearing about. And he said that she would always tell him to look for the helpers. When tragedy strikes, when disaster comes, she would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. And then he went on to say this: if you look for the helpers, then you'll know that there's hope. Have you seen the helpers this week? Have you known there is hope? I've seen school children wearing blue, standing together in the shape of a heart on a gym floor, showing love and support for this family and for this community of law enforcement. There was a moment of silence observed at Rupp Arena on Wednesday night during the boys' basketball game in the Sweet 16. A moment of silence honoring Scotty Hamilton. Players and cheerleaders, band members, and fans wore blue ribbons at that game to show their support. Children from a local daycare created and delivered a poster to the police station showing their love and their support. Homes and businesses across the region showing their support in various ways: wreaths, ribbons, signs, volunteers coming to this place, to this building, to get things ready for Friday and Saturday's visitation and today's service. Food being delivered to the family, food being delivered to the police station. All across town there are storefronts and signs and flags and flowers. And everywhere you look, there's a remembrance that this town and this community is hurting, that this family is grieving, and that we are remembering together the life of Scotty Hamilton. Always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. If you look for the helpers, then you'll know that there is hope. As I look at you filling this room this afternoon, I see hope. I see a room full of helpers. And I pray that this family would see and experience the hope. Jesus said that you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. This past week, every time I have witnessed one of your expressions of love and kindness, it has been like a light shining in the darkness. Jesus said to his disciples that you are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others, so that as your light shines, not only does it light up the darkness, but it causes all who see it to give glory to God. Thursday evening, this community gathered just outside these doors for candlelight vigil, and you surrounded this family. You surrounded the officers of this police department with your love and your support. You prayed for them. You cried with them. You embraced them. You held up your candle and you drove back the darkness. And God received the glory. There's a song that I sang on a retreat some years ago that simply said, "Let your light shine before others so they may know that our God of love's in this land." Let your light shine before others so they may know that our God of love is in this land. I want this family to know it's not just the love and the support of this community that surrounds you now. It's not just the love and the support of this police department that envelops you and will watch over you in the days to come. But I want you to know that there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can separate you from the love of Christ. There is nothing. Romans 8, we read, if God is for us, who can be against us? Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Nothing will separate you from the love of Christ. Look for the helpers. In Hebrews, we read this: the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can anyone do to me? Family and friends of Scotty Hamilton, may the Lord be your helper. May the love of God through Jesus Christ keep you and guard your hearts. May you continue to surround this family with your love and your prayers. May you surround this police department with your love and your prayers as they daily do what Scotty did. And each day when they walk out the door of their homes, they are willing to lay down their life to protect us. Thank God for them and the willingness and the sacrifice and the love for our community. Family, may God bless you. May God richly bless you. May God's grace be poured out into your lives. We give God thanks for Scotty Hamilton. We give God thanks for his love for you, his love for his community, his willingness to lay down his life for his brothers and sisters. May God be praised today through his sacrifice and through this time that we remember him.
Scotty and I grew up in mother and father's house. I have so many stories I could tell you. But we had agreed to keep this short, for we had talked if something like this had happened to one of us, that there was a few things that we wanted to have expressed. Please bear with me. I'm still shaken by what has happened. The careers that we have chosen, we knew were dangerous. So we met on several occasions and we talked about what we would want to be said if I stood over my brother's body or if he stood over my body. He wanted me to let everyone know, do not grieve him, but celebrate his life. Scotty did not want to do anything else for a career. This line of work was in his blood. And he enjoyed it, and he felt complete by going to work each day. I remember one story I promised that I would say. Scotty and I got into a small fight when we were younger, and I don't remember what it was about, neither does he. He was about 5, I was about 9. I remember pushing him so hard to the ground that he looked up at me and cried. And I thought, God, what have I done? And from that day forth, Scotty I saw the smile for the first time that everybody that knows him knows that smile. He stood up on his own, he come towards me and he hugged me. At the age of 5, he showed me something at the age of 9. I love you, my sweet brother. I know that we will see you on the other side. He wanted me to express to all the brothers in blue that he loves you and he thanks you for coming. Chris, Pikeville, everyone, he loves you and he thanks you for coming. Father, thank you for being the father that you are. Mother, thank you for being the mother that you are. Tiffany, thank you for being the sister that you've been to him, and also for being my wife. Chelsea, Brinley, Scotty wanted me to express to you that he loves you more than anything, and you mean everything to him. He told me over and over again, there's nothing more important to him. And he wanted me to tell you this. Scotty loves you. As being the older brother, I always prayed to God that I would be the first to go. So when this happened, as you can tell, I was not prepared, as no one could be prepared for this. But as Scotty never quit, I was going to power through this today. He expressed that he wanted everyone to celebrate his life and not grieve for him, for he knew the dangers, as all of our brothers in blue do. Brother, I love you. It's a message I wish I never had to open. Thank you.
As I was getting ready this morning, Scotty spoke to me and he said, "Now Chelsea, you've got to thank all of these people. I was always hard-headed, and so he had to do a lot for me. So I just want to say thank you for honoring my husband, and thank you for remembering him. Thank you for being his friend, his brother, and just thank you so much. I mean, I cannot express it. This is just mean he would be on cloud 9 if he was here. So I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much. Thanks.
We could stay standing. And if you know the words, let's sing along. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His
Now may the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named, according to the riches of God's glory, may He grant you to be strengthened with might through God's Spirit in your inner being, that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ which surpasses all knowledge, and that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. I want to ask if you would be seated, and then there will be some instructions you need to hear regarding the processional.
In a moment, the honor guards will come and they will direct public safety to exit. We will file out public safety first. When we go outside, there will be a ceremony. So if you want to see that, you should, as you exit, come around to the back where the procession is lined up, and you'll be able to see some honors as he is brought out. As many of you know, it's going to be a little unusual going to the cemetery today because of the very limited space and the obvious overwhelming number of people here. Only the immediate family and members of the Pikeville Police and Fire Departments will be processing up the hill. Everyone else, as the formation is relieved outside, you'll be asked to, if you want to continue if you want to see the graveside service, to walk the 4 blocks to the parking lot behind police headquarters. The public safety formation will be recreated there. There'll be a place for everyone else to stand as well. And you'll be able to actually participate and see the ceremony up at the gravesite, which is just on the hill, just above that location. There'll be a sound system there, so you will hear and see everything that happens. It's just not everybody will be able to go up on the hill. And again, officers who are parked on Hambly, we ask you to go to your vehicles and activate your emergency lights, so as the procession passes, your lights will be on and you're positioned and salute the hero as he passes. So now I'd like for the honor guards to come, and if you would, let's dismiss the police and fire department, and we'll all go outside very shortly.
And the funeral service of Officer Scotty Hamilton is coming to an end. I think it concluded about a little less than 2 hours. And you actually may be able to hear the bagpipes playing behind us. The cemetery where Officer Hamilton is being buried is just right up from us, actually overlooking the police department. They're just practicing right now. We still have the procession yet to go. If you want to try to pan up, Dennis, and get that as they're preparing for the burial service in just a little bit. Now, what's happening right now at the Expo Center, people are filing out. They're going to let everyone file out, I understand, and come out to the streets for the procession if they choose. We already have some people down here that didn't go to the service, standing and waiting for the procession. And Neil, we were able to watch most of the service. Your thoughts on what we saw and heard today?
Well, as we said before the funeral service began, we knew that this was going to be a very emotional tribute to Officer Scotty Hamilton, and that was. You had city officials who were talking. You had his brothers, his fellow police officers talking. At the end, you had his brother and his wife Chelsea, and that was tough.
Yeah. And we didn't know they were going to speak either.
We didn't know they were going to speak, and I cannot begin to imagine how difficult that was for them. And if I'm not mistaken, when his brother was up there talking, he talked like they had a pact that if one or the other went before the other one, that there were some things that they wanted to share. And his brother closed and said, "This was a message I never wanted to open."
Yeah.
He's 4 years older.
The music was beautiful. The words were beautiful. I don't think one person who got up to speak their voice didn't crack with emotion while they were talking about this man. It was, in a way, tough to listen to, but what a beautiful tribute to this man.
It was a beautiful tribute, and one of the things that everyone talked about, they talked about Officer Hamilton's smile, and that was something that just warmed everyone, and that's one of the things he's known for. But one of the things that they talked about a lot was, while they're going to miss him, and while they wish this had never happened, everyone said, "We're going to see you again, that this isn't the end, that there's another day coming when they'll be reunited." One of the scriptures that they quoted today, and it's one that I have thought of a lot this week, was that there is no greater love than to give your life for your brother, your friend. And they talked about that, and that's what Officer Scotty Hamilton did. They said if he knew the outcome and he had to do it again, he would do the same thing again, and that's the kind of man he was, the type of officer that he was.
One of the pastors quoted Mr. Rogers toward the end, and it's a quote that we've heard a lot after all the terrible events around the world in the last few years, saying, "Look for the helpers." His mom used to tell him, "Look for the helpers." And you've certainly seen a lot of helpers around here this week.
Well, this entire community has come out to help the family and to help each other. Many times that's the best way to deal with grief is to try to turn that grief into how you can help someone else. And I believe that's what this entire community has done this week.
Well, it was certainly a beautiful service, and what we're going to do now is we're going to break away briefly, but we will come back on the air on Heroes and Icons, WYMT.com, and Facebook to show you the procession. We think it's going to probably be maybe 15-20 minutes, maybe even longer before that gets started, so they can let everybody out of the Expo Center and line the streets to pay tribute to Officer Scotty Hamilton. So we're going to take a break, but before we go, we're going to look back at some of the powerful images that we've captured in the last few days here in Pikeville. We'll see you again soon. As daylight faded into night Tuesday,
It's with a heavy heart the city of Pikeville has announced
it was hard to imagine what the next day would bring. A cloudy, snowy day.
that Officer Scotty Hamilton was shot and killed tonight in the line of duty.
Flags flying at half-staff. Still a chill in the air when winter turns to spring, new life blossoms, but not this week.
So when you hurt one, you hurt us all.
No, instead death took a man so many cared for, loved, respected.
There's a strong bond with fellow law enforcement officers.
A man admired.
Everybody looked up to him. I myself looked up to him.
A pause Wednesday afternoon brought sorrow.
Lord, we come to you today and we ask you, oh God.
A procession no one hopes to ever see.
I hope they will remember that he was such a great family person and that he was just such a great leader.
A fallen hero honored.
I want people to know that Scotty was a fine young man, a fine city police officer, one of the best.
As time pressed on, our community came together.
Comfort their broken hearts on this cold and sad day.
Prayers going up everywhere.
I did it to honor him. He deserves so much more.
But our compassion will not allow tragedy to define who we are, what we are as one. Still, most of us sit wondering why. Answers likely will evade us.
We're thankful for the great turnout that we have tonight.
But now you've heard of Officer Scotty Hamilton. Here he is in high school, full of life. Again, a little more than 5 years ago, embracing his wife. And again, this time with his baby girl. He was passionate about his job, right up until his final call.